I'm Tracy Bennett, 30 years old, and my life turned upside down one Saturday morning in Virginia Beach. The doorbell rang at 7:45 a.m. I was halfway through my coffee, still in my sweats, when I opened the door and froze. Two boys stood on my porch, shivering. No bags, just a crumpled note taped to the older one's jacket in my sister's handwriting. "Don't call me, I'll ruin your career." No car, no text, nothing. Just two kids, staring at me like I was their last hope. My stomach twisted as I read the note again. My sister had dumped her kids on me without a word, threatening to torch my teaching job if I pushed back. I hadn't seen her in months, not since she screamed I was stealing her spotlight at a family dinner. Now this, I ushered the boys inside, their small hands clutching each other. The older one's eyes were too heavy for a kid, the younger one shrinking into his oversized shirt. This wasn't just neglect, it was a challenge. "She thinks she can scare me," I muttered, my voice sharp. She picked the wrong fight. I wasn't just going to care for these kids. I was done being her doormat. I grabbed my phone, called my best friend, and said, "I need evidence to turn this around." My sister thought she could control me with threats. Wrong. She was about to learn what happens when you underestimate someone who's had enough. Every family has someone who thinks they're untouchable. Have you faced a betrayal like this? Drop your story in the comments. Hit that like button and subscribe to see how my sister's world crumbles when justice catches up. To outsmart Brandy, I had to recall why she always self-destructed. Growing up in Virginia Beach, our family home near the shore was supposed to be a haven, but it was more like a battlefield where I never won. Brandy was the golden child, with her sun-kissed hair and effortless charm that turned heads at every beach party. Gina, our mom, treated her like a trophy, praising her looks and forgiving every slip-up. "She's just spirited," Gina would say when Brandy skipped school or came home late smelling of bonfires and beer. Paul, my dad, stayed silent, buried in his newspaper, letting Gina run the show. From the start, Brandy saw me as competition she had to crush. When I was 12, she stole my diary and read it aloud at a family barbecue, mocking my awkward crushes until I ran inside humiliated. Gina laughed it off as sisterly teasing, but it cut deep. Teaching me Brandy thrived on control. Some relatives even said I was too sensitive. That, if you've got nothing to hide, you shouldn't feel ashamed. By high school, her patterns emerged clearer. She'd date my friends, not because she liked them, but to prove she could take what was mine. One time, she spread rumors I was unstable after I confided in her about a tough breakup, just to isolate me from our circle. Gina defended her every time. Brandy's protecting the family image. That protection never extended to me. What made Brandy dangerous was her inability to stop when cornered. She'd escalate, turning small conflicts into explosions. Like the summer I got my first job as a lifeguard, she sabotaged my shifts by calling in sick for me, claiming I was too emotional to handle it. When confronted, she didn't back down. She screamed accusations, twisting facts until Gina sided with her again. Paul muttered something about teen drama and retreated to his garage. This cycle built Brandy into a monster, one Gina enabled by always cleaning up her messes. "She's under stress," Gina would excuse, whether it was failed jobs or bad relationships. But I saw the truth. Brandy's ego demanded dominance, and when threatened, she'd lash out wildly, exposing her flaws. Cassandra, my closest friend from college, was the one who helped me see it early. We'd meet at beachside cafes, where she'd listen to my stories and point out the patterns. "Brandy can't handle pushback, she implodes," she'd say, her voice steady over the waves. Those talks built my resolve, showing me Brandy's strength was an illusion. Gina's blind favoritism only fueled it, creating someone who believed she was untouchable. But I knew better. Every time Brandy felt cornered, she'd overplay her hand, revealing cracks Gina couldn't patch. This knowledge shaped my strategy now, with the boys safe inside. I realized pressuring Brandy would trigger her worst instincts. She'd threaten more, dig deeper holes, all while I gathered proof. Gina would try to mediate, but her bias would blind her to Brandy's unraveling. Paul might stay out, as always. I only need to create pressure, I thought, mapping it out. Brandy would self-sabotage, handing me the tools to dismantle her. Her history proved she'd escalate until there was nothing left to save. With the plan in motion, I started by making moves Brandy couldn't ignore. First, I took Andrew and Kyle shopping at a local Virginia Beach mall, picking out new clothes, shoes, and even some toys to make them feel secure. I snapped photos of their old ragged outfits before tossing them, documenting every sign of neglect for later. But this wasn't just about the boys. I made sure Gina knew. I called her that afternoon, casually mentioning the shopping trip and how the kids needed basics like pajamas and socks. "They're settling in fine," I said, keeping my tone neutral. Gina huffed. "You're spoiling them already. Brandy's just taking a break." I didn't argue, but I knew she'd relay every detail to Brandy, lighting the fuse. That evening, while the boys played in the living room with their new Lego sets, I checked online marketplaces on my laptop. Sure enough, Brandy's listings popped up: boys' coats, shoes, even a backpack I'd recognized from family photos. She was selling their stuff to fund her getaway, probably thinking no one would notice. My pulse quickened, but I held back. Instead of confronting her directly, I screenshot everything, noting dates and prices, building my file quietly. Cassandra stopped by after work, her teacher bag slung over her shoulder. She glanced at the screens and nodded. "Smart, let her dig deeper." We reviewed the evidence together, ensuring it was airtight for Don Klein. The next step was deliberate provocation. I waited until the boys were asleep before dialing Gina again. This time, I escalated just enough. "If Brandy doesn't check in soon, I'll have to involve authorities," I said firmly. Gina snapped back. "Don't threaten us. She's stressed you're making it worse." Her voice trembled with defensiveness, and I ended the call knowing she'd panic and tell Brandy. It was classic Gina, always shielding her favorite. But this time, it played right into my hands. I set my phone on record mode, ready for the inevitable backlash. Hours later, as expected, Brandy rang. Her voice was laced with fury from the start. "What are you playing at? Telling Mom you're calling CPS," she snarled. I stayed calm, probing gently. "The kids need stability. Where are you?" She exploded, ranting about my interference and threatening to expose my past struggles with depression to my school board. "One email, and your teaching career is over. You're unfit anyway." I let her talk, capturing every word without interruption. When she hung up, I saved the file, my hands steady. I knew Brandy would not hold back. She always has to have the last word. This trap was multi-layered. The shopping trip had baited Gina. The call had provoked Brandy's outburst. And now I had fresh audio to add to the screenshots. Don Klein would love this proof of ongoing threats and neglect. Cassandra texted her encouragement. "You're turning her weapons against her." As I tucked the boys in that night, Andrew whispered thanks for the new pajamas, his small smile fueling my resolve. Brandy's patterns were her weakness, and I'd just exploited them perfectly. With Brandy's threats recorded, I built a plan to lock her in her own trap. I replayed the audio on my phone, her venomous words echoing, "One email, and your teaching career is over." Cassandra sat across from me at my kitchen table in Virginia Beach, her eyes narrowing as she listened. "That's gold," she said, tapping her coffee mug. We tested the recording twice, ensuring every syllable was clear for Don Klein, the family lawyer I'd contacted. I wasn't just reacting anymore. I was orchestrating a legal strike. First, I called Dawn that morning. Her voice was crisp, professional, outlining the steps for an emergency guardianship petition in Virginia Beach. "We need more than the recording," she warned. "Show ongoing neglect and intent." I pulled up the screenshots from Brandy's marketplace listings: boys' coats, shoes, a backpack, all sold days before she dumped Andrew and Kyle. Cassandra helped organize them into a folder, adding notes about the boys' ragged clothes when they arrived. Every piece was a nail in Brandy's coffin. Next, I contacted Virginia Beach CPS. The agent listened as I detailed the abandonment, the note, and Brandy's threats. I sent her the recording and screenshots, emphasizing the boys' lack of basics like socks or toothbrushes. "This is serious," she said, promising a case file by day's end. I felt a surge of control. Brandy's impulsiveness was now evidence against her. Anthony called from Australia that evening, his voice steady despite the crackling line. "You're doing the right thing," he said, then wired $5,000 to cover Dawn's retainer. "Get the best lawyer, don't hold back." His support wasn't just money, it was a reminder I wasn't alone. Cassandra coordinated with Dawn, scheduling a home visit to document my care for the boys. We set up a spare room with bunk beds and school supplies, making it clear I was their stability. The legal trap was multi-layered. I installed a small security camera at my front door, anticipating Brandy's next move. Her pattern was clear: she'd escalate when cornered, just like in high school when she'd lash out to win. Dawn advised me to keep a log of any contact, so I noted every call, every text from Gina, who was still defending Brandy. "She's just stressed," Gina texted once, oblivious to the stakes. I didn't respond. Her bias only strengthened my case. Cassandra suggested one more layer, baiting Brandy to dig deeper. I sent a vague text to Gina: "The boys are doing great, but I need to know Brandy's plans." I knew Gina would forward it, pushing Brandy to react. Sure enough, my phone buzzed late that night. Brandy's voice was sharper than before. "Stop meddling, or I'll tell your principal you're too unstable to teach kids." I stayed calm, letting her rant, recording every word. When she slammed the phone down, I saved the file. "Every threat she makes is a weapon against her," I told Cassandra, my resolve hardening. By the next morning, Dawn had the second recording and confirmed CPS was moving fast. The boys' safety was priority. But my plan was bigger. Brandy's own words would bury her in court. Andrew and Kyle were at school, their new backpacks slung over their shoulders, unaware of the storm I was building. As I watched them board the bus, I knew this wasn't just about protecting them. It was about dismantling Brandy's control, piece by piece, until she had nothing left to wield. With everything in place, Brandy walked right into the storm. It started with a pounding knock at my door late that evening in Virginia Beach. I glanced at the security camera feed on my phone, seeing her standing there with her boyfriend, his broad shoulders tense, Gina hovering behind them like a shadow. I took a deep breath, signaled Cassandra to stay quiet in the kitchen, and opened the door. Brandy's face was flushed, eyes wild with rage. "What do you think you're doing? Stirring up trouble with Mom?" she demanded, pushing past me without invitation. Her boyfriend followed, his presence filling the entryway like a wall. The boys were upstairs, drawing in their new sketchbooks, but I heard their footsteps pause at the noise. "Get out," I said evenly, blocking the hallway. Brandy sneered, her voice rising. "The kids are coming with me. You're not playing Mom here." When I stood firm, she lunged forward, shoving my shoulder hard enough to send me stumbling against the wall. Pain shot through my arm, but I didn't cry out. I'd expected this escalation. Gina stepped in but said nothing, her face blank as she watched. Her silence spoke volumes, confirming she'd always choose Brandy, even now. The boyfriend grabbed for the stairs, but Cassandra emerged from the kitchen, phone in hand. recording the scene. "This is trespassing," she stated calmly. Brandy spun on her, screaming, "Mind your business!" In the chaos, Brandy turned back to me, her nails digging into my sleeve as she yanked me closer. "You'll pay for this," she hissed, her breath hot on my face. Exactly what I wanted her losing control on camera, exposing the monster Gina had enabled. The boys appeared at the top of the stairs, Andrew shielding Kyle, their faces pale. "Don't take us," Andrew pleaded, his voice breaking. Brandy hesitated for a split second, then snapped at her boyfriend. "Get them now." He moved toward them, but I blocked his path, my voice steady despite the throbbing pain. "Touch them, and it's over for you too." He shoved me aside, my head hitting the banister with a thud. Stars flashed, but I saw Cassandra capturing every moment. The audio picking up Brandy's frantic commands. Gina finally muttered, "This is getting out of hand." But she didn't intervene, just folded her arms. Her inaction was the final piece proof of complicity. The boyfriend scooped Kyle under one arm, dragging Andrew by the wrist as they kicked and cried. Brandy smirked at me on the floor. "See, they're mine." They stormed out, slamming the door, leaving silence broken only by my ragged breaths. Cassandra helped me up, her hand steady. "We got it all," she whispered, stopping the recording. The camera had caught the shove, the threats. Gina's blank stare, perfect. Brandy had just handed me everything on a silver platter, undeniable evidence of assault, interference, and her unfitness. As I called the Virginia Beach police, reporting the break-in and abduction, I knew this storm was of her own making. She'd fallen perfectly into the trap, sealing her fate with her own hands. As the legal wheels turned, I watched Brandy unravel step by step. The first court hearing in Virginia Beach set the tone. Don Klein presented the petition for emergency guardianship, laying out the evidence in crisp detail. Brandy arrived late, her clothes disheveled, eyes darting like a cornered animal. Nicholas Ford, the boy's father, sat beside her, slouched in a wrinkled shirt, reeking of stale smoke. He'd shown up out of nowhere, claiming he deserved custody despite years of absence. Dawn was ready for him. She cross-examined Nicholas relentlessly, highlighting his missed child support payments and lack of contact. "When was the last time you spoke to Andrew or Kyle?" she asked. He stammered. "A couple of months ago." But records showed 2 years. The judge's expression hardened, and Nicholas's claim crumbled before lunch. He stormed out, muttering excuses, his bid over in one session. Brandy couldn't contain herself. As Dawn played the audio of her threats, Brandy leaped up, pointing at me across the room. "That's manipulated. She's lying to steal my kids," she shouted, her voice cracking. The bailiff warned her twice, but she kept going, slamming her fist on the table. "You always hated me, you're jealous." The judge banged the gavel, ordering a recess, but Brandy's outburst had sealed it. Dawn leaned over. "She just handed us credibility on a platter." The court mandated a psychological evaluation for Brandy, which she failed spectacularly, her report citing instability and poor impulse control. An observer near the prosecution bench whispered that maybe the hearing had deliberately pushed Brandy to her breaking point. Outside the courtroom, Brandy's desperation grew. She launched an online smear campaign, posting on local Virginia Beach forums and social media groups. "My sister is unfit, don't let her near kids," she wrote, twisting facts about my past. But I'd anticipated this. Dawn filed for a protective order, and CPS investigators traced the posts back to her. Adding cyber harassment to the charges, neighbors and old acquaintances messaged me support, sharing screenshots of Brandy's rants. One former coworker of hers commented publicly, "She's always been volatile, good luck." The backlash isolated Brandy further. her friends distancing themselves as the posts backfired. Gina tried calling me once, her voice pleading. "This is tearing us apart," she said. I hung up without a word. Her inaction during the intrusion had shown her true colors. Nicholas made one last feeble attempt, petitioning for visitation. Dawn countered with affidavits from the boys' school teachers. Noting their improved behavior under my care, the judge denied him outright, citing abandonment. Brandy's evaluation results came in, recommending supervised visits at best. She exploded in the next hearing, yelling at the judge, "This is unfair, they're mine." The courtroom fell silent as the bailiff escorted her out. Dawn turned to me with a nod. Her temper is her worst enemy. The online fallout accelerated her collapse. Brandy's posts drew CPS scrutiny, leading to a deeper probe into her finances. They uncovered unpaid bills and eviction notices. Painting a picture of chronic instability, her job as a sales clerk ended when her employer saw the drama unfold online, isolated and broke. Brandy had no allies left. Gina stopped defending her publicly, retreating into silence. I didn't lift a finger beyond providing evidence. Brandy did the rest. I didn't need to do anything. Brandy destroyed herself, I realized. Reviewing the case files with Dawn, her every move had fueled the fire, turning her threats into her downfall. 1 year after the storm broke, the pieces of Brandy's life lay scattered. The final court ruling came on a crisp Virginia Beach morning, the judge's voice echoing in the packed room as he granted me full guardianship of Andrew and Kyle. Dawn Klein squeezed my hand, her smile brief but triumphant. The boys, now thriving in their routines of school and beach outings, rushed into my arms outside the courthouse. Andrew's hug was fierce, Kyle's laughter light as air. "We're staying for good?" Andrew asked, his eyes wide. I nodded, kneeling to their level. Forever. Their new life with me was official. No more uncertainty, just stability in our cozy home by the shore. Brandy's downfall unfolded like a slow unraveling, sentenced to 10 years for child endangerment and assault. She lost everything in the process. The legal fees drained her savings, forcing her to sell her car and apartment furnishings just to cover bail bonds. Her sales job vanished when her employer cited the public scandal, leaving her broke and unemployable. From prison, she wrote desperate letters, but I returned them unopened. Gina watched it all from afar, her once vibrant social circle shrinking. Neighbors whispered about her role in the mess, and family gatherings turned awkward silences. She moved to a small rental on the city's edge, isolated. Her calls to me going straight to voicemail. Paul faded further, his occasional texts about family unity ignored. Nicholas Ford's last grasp at relevance failed spectacularly after his petition was denied. He disappeared again. No visits or support for the boys. CPS closed his file, noting his history of neglect as the deciding factor. Brandy's online posts, once her weapon, became her liability. Deleted accounts couldn't erase the damage to her reputation. Friends who once enabled her distanced themselves, leaving her alone in her cell to reflect on the choices that led there. The climactic moment came during a prison visit Brandy requested. She shuffled into the room, her face gaunt, eyes hollow from months behind bars. Dropping to her knees, she clutched the barrier. "Please forgive me," she begged, tears streaming. "I didn't mean for it to go this far." I stood unmoved, my voice steady. "Pray 1 year, or 10. Her sobs filled the space as I turned away, signaling the guard. A part of me wondered if forgiving her might show the boys mercy instead of coldness, but the thought vanished, smothered by resentment. There was no reconciliation, no second chance. I walked out, cutting the last thread, blocking all contact forever. In the months that followed, life settled into a peaceful rhythm. Andrew excelled in school, his drawings now filling our fridge instead of hiding fears. Kyle's nightmares faded, replaced by excited stories about soccer practice. Cassandra became a regular at our dinners, her laughter blending with the boys. Anthony visited more often, his support unwavering. The message was clear: don't ever threaten those who protect children. Standing up had cost me pain, but it built a family worth everything. Justice wasn't just victory, it was freedom from the toxic ties that once bound me.